I lost my little sheet there. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to True Life Podcast. Hope everybody's having a beautiful day. It's Friday. It's Friday with 2 Ds because I got a double dose of shows coming for you. I got the one and only Mike Robinson right here. I know that he doesn't need an introduction for those who are watching, for those on my channel, but for those who may not know, let me just give him this quick little 1-2 right here. He's High Times top 100 most influential people in cannabis 2021, one of the top voices from around the world in the cannabinoid medicine education arena, founder of the Global Cannabinoid Research Center in Santa Barbara, co-founder of the Nanobles Corporation, cancer survivor, compassionate father, amazing human being, lover of life's mysteries, great man all around. Super stoked he's here. Mike, thanks for being here, my friend. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm humbled by the introduction. I'll tell you, I'm not sure if I deserve all. We missed a few of the other things, but let's stay on the positive. It is Friday, and for a lot of people, we've worked all week, and it's like weekend.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride because I entered the cannabis industry originally as a civil rights lobbyist that represented kids with disabilities,
Right.
and just a traveling one-man pro bono show that I'd done for decades, and I ingested and found the wonders of cannabinoids and started researching that and began giving away in these big compassion programs. And that's truly how I became a researcher. And it's odd when I look at my bio now, like I'm the one website I have, Researcher OG, which is pretty easy to look at. Anybody watching, researcherog.com, and it shows you my bio there in publication. And I look at my own bio and I'm like, is this truly me? I mean, it's like 40 something international symposiums of medicine organizational committee. I mean, I'm a total stoner. I mean, I don't know, all this great professional stuff, but
Right.
this is the cannabis industry, and a lot of us have grown from where we once went and got a medical card because we smoked weed, and now it's just the case. And we went from that to slowly discovering more and more and more as all this different stuff got unearthed. Rick Simpson came about. A lot of people don't know that the RSO Rick Simpson thing didn't even happen until around 2000. Around that year, I mean, cannabis was already legal, had been for years after California's Prop 215 in 96. And then you got the Rick Simpson story, and then it took years for that to get out, and then the RSO craze, and wow, then we learned more about medicine. Charlotte came, Charlotte left, rest in peace. And we got to learn about hemp and hemp extracts and cannabinoids. And I'll tell you, I always hated on hemp. And it's one of the hardest things right now because it's like the very first retail brand after a decade of being involved in cannabis. I've never had a brand for sale. And the very first thing I have is called CBGA Crumble. And it's from hemp. I call it the hash of hemp. And I'll tell you, back when I first got involved in this, even though CBD was my initial path into cannabis and cannabinoid medicine, I should say. My path into cannabis was around age 8.5 behind the library.
I know that path.
A couple years ahead in school, so my friends were like 10 and 11, and I was only 8.5, and I was like, oh, that was my first, and I was like, holy hell. And it was sort of like that one movie, How High, where you drank the whole Slurpee that was 40,000.
Bigger than your head.
I can't remember which one of those movies it was, but it was like that, where they all go on 7-Eleven. So yeah, I mean, I have a long history of actually smoking the doobie. And I think that it's important to integrate this message when I can. I mean, I can't do that from the symposium stage. Right. But what I can do when I talk to doctors about cannabinoid medicine, which has to be a totally, completely different type of dialogue, is flash in a poster board show diagnostics that show multiple cancers. And oops, that's out of order. Meant for something else. Sorry about that. That just happens to be a document from my file that was reviewed at the American Academy of Cannabinoid Medicine after I successfully beat 3 different stage 4 cancers using cannabis oil. So let's go back to the subject. If I can do that, see, I call that subtle.
I love it.
I don't know. So I mean, personally, I think that we're in this really weird space in cannabis. I mean, we've got billions of dollars of stuff being sold under Schedule 1. We've got the National Institute of Health funding not only studies but projects to create cannabinoid medicine. Cannabinoid medicine. We have a bill passed allowing us to now legally research, quote, cannabinoid medicine. And when you go to Schedule 1 substances, you got this thing listed next to angel dust and PCP and stuffing a hose up your ass. As those things you shouldn't do that aren't medically good for you. Unless you need an enema. The bottom line of it is marijuana is on that list. It's not even cannabis. So it's like, first off, before we even deschedule cannabis, let's call it cannabis on the federal level. Because it's not even called, it's still called marijuana. I mean, I write blogs all the time, right? And I have to put medical marijuana, and and I've always called it weed. So
Right.
That's not type weed, right? And good stanky dank bud. But no, we've grown. We've learned so many different things, and it's one of the reasons why when I decided that, hey, it was time to bring a legitimate brand to a market, I wanted to legitimize a cannabinoid that people really haven't heard about a whole lot. I mean, we had Oregon State University blow up acidic hemp cannabinoids about a year and a half ago in a petri dish study where they drop things in a petri dish, and there's the cell. There was basically a replication of the human COVID virus, and whether or not it would replicate was a study. And it was found that CBGA and CBDA were the number 1 and 2 cannabinoids by far that would stop this replication, and actually successfully stopped it. But then the research just dies out.
Imagine that.
Where'd it go? It went to big pharma. That's where it went. Because what it did was hype up a cannabinoid, make it cost 700% of what it did before, totally depleting a market. And who bought it all? Who knows? Because there's not that many products on the market. And what is on the market is mostly made out of isolates. And a lot of us know that when we look at cannabis as medicine, we've been taught some things that are pretty broad terms, like full spectrum. But what we haven't been taught yet is that there's full spectrum CBDs, full spectrum THC, of course, that people know of, like Rick Simpson oil. And then there's this CBGA is full spectrum CBGA. It's a complete extract out of the CBG plant, including the acidic cannabinoid. So we've grown to a point to where we have all these different types of cannabinoids to choose from, and consumers are totally spun. And I talk to people every day that tell me, Mike, I've spent hundreds, sometimes thousands, trying to find what'll work for me. Now, I don't hear this out of the stoner, because some people come to me and say, Mike, I just can't get high anymore. And this cannabinoid, CBGA, is known for causing endocannabinoid balance. We have an endocannabinoid system for people that don't know this, that are watching. I don't know how many of your watchers are aware of this, but we have this thing called an endocannabinoid system with these receptors in our brain all throughout our neurological system and our lymphatic system, for example. And then we discover that it's all across our skin. Then we discover the discoveries keep going. We discovered that our tissue, our very organs, have receptors. We discovered that cannabinoid receptors are in the uterus and require endocannabinoid activity at the point of conception. This is a published study. This is not just Mike Robinson just blah, blah. I mean, I am the founder of the Global Cannabinoid Research Center. I know it doesn't mean much nowadays. But I mean, the bottom line of it is that these studies are real. We have so many studies showing us the value of the endocannabinoid system, but we don't have a federal mandate requiring all healthcare professionals learn it. And this is getting a little bit concerning. It's been 31 years. 1992 was the publication on the endocannabinoid system by Raphael Meshel, rest in peace. He just died. What a great mentor, but, and what a time to live in. I typed back and forth to the guy that discovered this and his team. I mean, it was a whole group of people. I don't know them all, that's for sure. But their quarterback is somebody I actually typed back and forth to. And I didn't realize, I sort of took that for granted, guy in his 90s. And it's still, though, we have this system that was discovered through a network of universities working together, the endocannabinoid system, and it modulates everything in our body. And we've discovered that there's countless, like a quintillion, I can't remember what the number was. It's just a countless number of receptors are in our mitochondria. Okay, so now it's over. Okay, so first we found them all over the skin. First we found them in the brain, right? Then we found them in the neurological system. Then we found these receptors for endocannabinoids in the lymphatic system and beyond, and endocrine system, and we're like, wow, this homeostasis occurs because of the endocannabinoid system operating right, but it hasn't operated right in 100 years because of prohibition, and it's just incredible. So many people don't know about it, and their doctors don't know about it. And when their doctors say, hey, you shouldn't be using cannabis, don't smoke that joint, they can't say, look, doc, when I take a hit off this joint, my CB1 receptor is activated, just to make it easy for you to understand. It lights up. And when it lights up, it acts as a neurotransmitter, just like anandamide, an endocannabinoid that we're missing. All of us, and especially in medicine, should be aware that we have clinical endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome. This was discovered in 2003. So now we're talking 2 decades ago. Again, doctors unaware that patients are clinically deficient of a neurotransmitter that runs all their systems. So how can you make any diagnostic correctly if you don't know what the endocannabinoid system is? You don't know the function of it. You don't know what endocannabinoid tone is. You don't even know what endocannabinoids are. And this is probably one of my biggest issues, And I'm so glad I got to go off this tangent and rant about this a little bit because, I just did the Shredder Challenge. And right now that's going on. I don't know if you're on LinkedIn, but the Americans for Safe Access has all these different shred challenges where we tore a piece of paper in half with Schedule 1 on it and challenged other people to do that, on video, saying we don't support this, we support freedom, and it's a shred the schedule hashtag.
I like it.
You check out that hashtag; it's pretty cool. But I'm just so sick of it. I'm so sick of watching our government spend time on wasteful practices when people need help. And it doesn't matter if it's about ending prohibition on cannabis
Right.
or 100 different issues. I mean, we just have a situation where we're no longer represented correctly. We're in a Boston Tea Party situation. The only thing is, we're not dumping our weed in the ocean. Sorry, dudes.
You've been in the game for a long time, Mike. Is it getting better? I mean, you've taken every approach possible, from sneaking around the back to knocking on the front door to coming in with all the evidence, using there's a good funny quote that says something about, beginning to understand and utilize the master's tool so you can go to his house and break it down. Like, you've done every sort of strategy possible. Is it getting better, or is it just something that's going to go with time? Or what do you think's happening? What can we expect for the future, man? Are we making a dent, or are people learning? Is this education helping? What's going on, man?
Well, I see it helping, and it's one
Right.
reason why I don't, and you have to excuse my candor because I have quite a bit of it. I was a lobbyist for a couple of decades representing disabled kids, facing off attorneys and hearings. So I had to be, a smart ass and
Yeah.
really good at it anyway. But I'm not into the cheerleading contests I see in the U.S. cannabis science scene. I don't see that helping us.
Okay.
What I see helping us is pressure internationally. It's what always has made a difference. If you look at what's going on right now in the U.S. government, I just published on my blog on cbgacrumble.com, which is sort of easy to find me there. You know what I mean? So I just published today about how the United States of America issued a resolution to Russia to change its cannabis policy to release U.S. prisoners, which of course released their own too. And I'm sitting back going, wait a second. We're taking years. I was really hopeful that Obama would
Yep.
end prohibition. I'll tell you, without a doubt, I thought he would. I thought Bush would before Obama came in, just to lay something in there, leave something on the Bush name legacy like we
Right.
did. But no, they didn't. Then I thought Obama was going to do it for sure. There's no way this guy. He's got the backing, and that didn't happen. Then, and because these guys are all puppets, and we can't do it. So
Yep.
the bottom line of it is that then we thought this other guy would do it, who's sort of I won't mention the name even because right now it causes too much chaos, and that didn't happen. There was a lot of promises, but it's face value kind of thing. Politicians, billionaires, they tend to be full of shit. So the bottom line is we just haven't seen any prohibition. Now we got a guy that just sort of seems to be stumbling on his way to the stage and shit. I'm like going, holy hell! If we have never had evidence that these guys don't truly run the country, now we do. We watch the guy sit on Twitter, go, I hate you all, and get away with it. I mean, how do you go 4 years without banning the dude from Twitter? I mean, when you got a president who can't keep out of arguing on social media, don't you just rein that in a little bit as an entire party? I used to be a young Republican before I was a civil rights lobbyist.
Oh no, I lost him right there. He'll be right back. It's crazy to
It
think
blows
about.
my mind.
Yeah.
How sorry about that, but there's my tattoo my car, so I was a redneck racer, and so my values are still there.
Right.
I'm just independent in the middle of all this crap, but I watch it all because I don't care who you are in Washington D.C. right now, you're failing us.
Yep.
Because as a whole you fail. So if you're a football team and you lose the Super Bowl, you lost.
Right.
So right now, as a leadership, you suck, and we need to work differently and towards a different path. And I believe that slowly things are changing, and that's why I have always targeted the international symposium circuit for cannabinoid medicine to talk about it. Use posters, use simple. I mean, I'll go by video, I'll go by audio with just my picture and posters to appear in wherever, Egypt, before Sri Lanka fell, I did one there. We're just talking about getting the word out all over that. Look, we've taken some information and expounded on it and found that, look, cannabinoids can do a whole lot more than we thought. And the potentials are incredible. And it's very important that we continually to look at potentials. Now, I'm a 3-time cancer survivor who beat those cancers with natural extracts that came from a plant that I can't make claims on because, I have a brand for sale and stuff, some medical claims are allowed. I have severe epilepsy and, nature helps me. But, isn't it weird how we see all these claims made about things that are just garbage?
Yeah.
Like TV ads about ranch dressing. Oh, it's bountiful. It's fresh. And consumers misled left and right of every last product. So go on Amazon, and it's like, man, you get a bunch of cheap plastic broken shit, but the description that misleads you to no end. And in cannabis, you can't just say this helped me beat blank unless you're a patient.
Mm.
And once you cross the line, and I'll tell you, it's one of the reasons why I waited. As a patient, I was ready to launch a brand in 2016,
Right.
and I didn't even know what CBGA was. Let me do another shameless plug of my brand. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Turn it a little bit towards me, a little bit more.
Little
There
1
you go.
gram. The 420 is easier to see.
There you go.
But it's interesting stuff. I'll show it to you.
Yeah.
The crumble is really interesting. And people don't smoke this that much or put it in their joints a whole lot. They ingest it, take little bits and ingest it. And they learned to do that from me.
Well, tell me all about it, man. Like, is it a derivative from hemp? Like, is it a derivative? Can you get it from everything? Like, well, break it down for me, man.
Let me break it down for you. Okay, CBGA occurs when there's this basically an eruption, like the volcano over there on the Big Island. Okay, an eruption occurs between enzymes and terpenes. The next thing you know, you've got CBGA, which I call the granddaddy. I used to call the mother major in research years and years ago. And now that everybody calls it the mother major, I won't take credit for naming her that, but I will. But anyway, the bottom line of it is that CBGA creates THCA, CBCA, and CBDA, which all three of those create a whole cascade of cannabinoids. So CBGA is the powerhouse, man. And this stuff right here, I call it the hash of hemp. My personal stash. Check out the hash.
Nice.
I love this stuff, man. Look at that. Like, whoa. But this stuff right here, creates THCA, which creates THC, which creates CBNA, which creates CBN. Wow.
Is it doing it in that body? When I take it, is my body balancing? Is it using that raw material and then making those other ones out of it? Is that what's going on? No.
See, that's one thing I'd love to clarify, because people think, okay, Mike, it's doing all this for. I'm like, wait, that's not the message. And I'll probably write about that so I can let people know. Because what CBGA does when we ingest it is a whole different thing than what CBGA is. So let's go over what it is first.
Nice.
Okay. What it is this cannabinoid that creates all these different other cannabinoids.
Okay.
Now, there is another cannabinoid, CBGVA, that creates the varin cannabinoids like THCVA, CBDVA, CBDV. Okay, these are more rare. We don't see these in the products on the market a whole lot. We hear about THCV, which is a varin, for like dietary stuff, and people talk a lot about it making you hyper. Okay, so move that aside and look at CBGA again, and we're talking about something that makes THC and CBD, the two major things sold on the market. Now we're seeing CBG on the market. What's that? That's getting CBGA too hot. So what does CBGA make? All those things. What does CBG make? CBG. So there's a huge disconnect in the market itself between consumers, between people selling products, even people growing. I have found that there just needs more education on this, and I'll tell you, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that there was a precursor molecule that made all the other cannabinoids. That's mind-boggling. I didn't figure that out until years after starting to use. I smoked THC. I got my medical card in multiple states, including the state you're in. I got my card in Oahu right as they legalized it. Wasn't it 2008?
Yeah, I think so.
2008. It's before I left, because I left January 2010 after 8 years on the islands. But I'll tell you, I had a card there. I've had cards in multiple states, but it took me literally from 96, 97, right after the legalization in California, and the first card I got in California, until 2012, here I need to ingest. I didn't even know that cannabis, other than ingesting to get high, had some kind of medicinal properties. And as far as hemp, as far as this crap was concerned, I didn't want anything to do with it. It was some tall, lanky plant that didn't grow good buds. You can't get stoned. What's the point? So anyway, and I got a card because I had epilepsy, and I'm like, okay, this helps me, right? I feel better. I don't know if I'm not sure if I seized less, but I sure know I wanted to smoke a joint and left the hospital a lot sooner. So I saved the system a lot of money by getting a cannabis card with severe epilepsy and then smoking weed instead of ingesting it and doing other things that actually treat the problem, because I just wanted to get the hell out of the hospital, smoke a joint. So yeah, that's an interesting avenue. Maybe they did that on purpose. So well, the bottom line of it is, now it's just evolution. We're evolving and evolving and evolving. And now we've learned about things like CBGA. But for me, what it took was this long chain of events where I was introduced to ingestion. I began giving cannabis away in compassion programs. I got sick with multiple cancers. I started traveling the roads just thinking my time was done and I'm going to pave my way to heaven. And wherever I'm going, man, it's time to believe and just do whatever good I can do, man. I mean, I was a race car driver. Even as a civil rights lobbyist, fight for people's lives with do slimy stuff to get it done. You know what I mean? It's just the facts. I can't litigate a case without being full of shit. It's just true. I'm sorry. It's just the way it goes. I mean, last minute pivot. So the bottom line of it is, I just figured out life was over. 3 stage 4 cancers at one time, bone metastasis, and you're done. Yeah. I'd already had cancer once, treated at Queens in 2003. When I got treated in Queens, it caused paralysis from a racing wreck in 95 to return. I spent 2.5, almost 3 years of my time on Oahu in a wheelchair due to chemotherapy. So when I got it in 2015, there's no way in hell I was having chemo again. So I was just going to walk off and die. Now, I saw the memes and stuff on Facebook, and I'd been in the whole compassion thing already. So I knew all about Rick Simpson oil and all that stuff. So, of course, that's what I went for. Give me the RSO. And immediately, my initial guys that I worked with were a little more professional. Like, no, we call it ECO. It's full extract cannabis oil. And that's all I did was get that stuff, move it all over. And then one day I knocked on a door that's about 8 feet away, my own front door, and brought oil to a girl named Genevieve. And I even gave her CBD, and she didn't respond right. I'm putting that mildly. Her response to CBD was very adverse. And I had this happen to me with more than one child. A lot of kids did really good. Everybody responds to stuff differently. I've watched kids do well with the same diagnosis, sometimes with THCA, sometimes with actual THC. Sometimes CBD all by itself worked great. Sometimes, so as we've learned to go to all these different cannabinoids back then, 7 years ago, Genevieve, after a month of being her compassion provider, her mom and I went on a date. And I wasn't dating back then, I was sick. You know what I mean? So, but I was on the road and traveling a lot. But something happened when I met Genevieve. The love story happened then. It was like the moment I met her. This child that I was told nobody could go in her room, allowed me in her room. When I sat in her bed, her mom just said to me, "Oh, like, what's going on?" I'm like, "Don't sit there," kind of thing. She doesn't let people. And she came over to me to show me stuff, and she had an iPad, and she started just doing things. When I met Genevieve, she was having a seizure, and I gave her oil immediately. And I can talk about that now because, statute of limitations is over and all that. Yeah. You have to be a criminal to help people with oils and travel around like that. You can't just give a kid that's seizing and could die from that seizure an oil. That's crime.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. But, it's a trip though. I didn't know what CBGA was until Genevieve, because she responded to that THC and didn't respond to the CBD. So as her mom and I got together, it got to a point to where I got really close, and she was using oil at school, going to school, using a lot of oil, and she just had started using it. She was pretty naive, but she could really take a pretty big dose of THC and CBN, two very psychoactive cannabinoids that cause red eyes, cotton mouth, all these different things. And it's not about the worry of brain stuff for young kids. We're talking about correcting somebody's severe epilepsy. It was more about, do you want that appearance? Okay, is there a way around this? Is there a way around using this, and that? And that's what led me to this cannabinoid. I was like, after doing some research, I was like, there's this cannabinoid and nobody's got it, but where do we get it? And I was like, well, it's in THC and CBD plants as they convert. First, I found some CBD plants. It wasn't easy, but I was traveling at the time, so it was a little bit easier because I wasn't in California. And tried to grab some of those at 6, 7, 8 weeks and couldn't get very much CBGA. And then I found that THC cultivars were much more, they're much easier for me to, and I was advanced in school kind of thing, but I'm able to look at things and see things, and I was able to look at the THC and plants and see we're there. We're at the point of conversion, in which this plant, and I have never grown cannabis, okay? I'm just a researcher and just a different person, wired a little bit different. So, but what I found was the plant converts from CBGA over to THC, and it's pretty quick. You don't got a lot of time. That plant could be sitting at 5.5% CBGA, and it's going to move into THCA. And it didn't sit there for a month like that. It sat there for 2 days like that, at the most. I don't even know. I can't.
Is it like in a vegetative stage? Is there like a certain stage where the plant is where it is like that?
It's flowering.
Okay.
It's about 7 weeks into flower.
Okay.
Okay. 7 to 8 weeks into flower is what I read. That's what I went off of, was reading that. And then I found it depended on who was growing it. Then I found out it depended on where. So it took a while to find CBGA.
Yeah.
But as it was found, which was pretty quickly, because it was my girlfriend's daughter at this point, you know what I mean? We made something we called Autism Love out of it. And I found that a lot of people that weren't responding, adults with every malady you could think of, that didn't quite respond to CBD, but didn't want THC, responded to this oil. Now, on my own, I didn't really consider the fact that, you take a bottle of a prototype and go, okay, I made this. I mean, if you have any kind of integrity, you do some kind of safety study. So you drink the whole thing, and you do that over and over again, and can make you sick or give you the runs because you had too much MCT. No, but I'm just saying that I had no idea what it would do for me because I didn't like hemp to begin with.
Yeah.
And you didn't feel anything. And I've always been a stoner, so what's and that's the thing about CBGA is when you can't feel anything from this and you start ingesting that, man, you saw what I've lit since we start.
Right.
I was totally straight at the start of this podcast. I had to pick up glasses about halfway through to see you. Things got, well, I know my vision, I use reading glasses, but still, but I started getting high school high real quick, and that's an old school term. Nobody not saying high school people should get high. I was saying, back in our day when we snuck out and we burned one, we got so fast. And I get that way. And literally this that I lit on your show goes out, and I'll do that. I've got one right here that was from like the earlier part of the week. And I'll do that, My office is closed off. And, we get some air going out of here. So, but anyway, see, I'm like old school where it's just blowing up. But no, seriously though, a lot of us have smoked cannabis for a long time. Smoked weed, smoked the ganja, whatever you want to call it. If you're a stoner, I made CBGA 420 so you'd pay attention. I'm going to get some fancy branding. It's all flashy. CBGA 420. You know what I mean? So 420, you open this thing up.
Yep.
Guess what? I've got work to do. I can't stay in this state I'm in. And I don't want to take some CBD right now and mitigate my THC. Mitigation means offset and make it not work anymore, just metabolize it away. Instead, I want to take some CBGA, which will also metabolize it. But while it does, CBGA goes in the system and works so unique, so unlike any other exogenous or plant cannabinoid or synthetic cannabinoid. I've never seen anything like this stuff before. It goes in and it's like this metabolic thing that metabolizes things that are bad. Now, that's probably my best way to describe what it does. I don't see it just metabolize every CBD sort of garbage disposal stuff, pharmaceuticals, this, that, where, and a lot of people said, oh, CBD synergistic with THC. And I disagree. No, how is it synergistic if it knocks it out? No, it's pulling it away, so it's easier to say, hey, you can take a gram because it's 1-to-1. Yeah, okay, because it's surely not even 1-to-1. By the time you take it, that half is pulling away from the other half, so it's more like 1/4 to 3/4. So I mean, there's a lot of different ways to use cannabinoids, and no two parties should ever agree because we all have different endocannabinoid systems. So anybody that says, Mike, I don't think you're right, I'm going to say you're right. I'm probably completely wrong for you.
Right.
Okay. But for me, I'm on point. And for a lot of other people, I am too, because we're all different. So, the message I send nowadays is endocannabinoid balance. Balance that system. Smoke your weed, smoke your ganja, enjoy legalization, man. Enjoy it to the max. I mean, there's so much. The only thing I don't like about recreational laws, for example, are what they do. You know what I mean? I can't say I don't like that there's recreational laws. I can't say that I think that it should only be medicinal. Some people take that platform. I believe in all of them. I'm a civil rights guy. So I believe that you should have cannabis lounges if you want them. I believe that you should be able to walk in the park smoking a joint if you want to. I believe that you should be able to grow it like a tomato. I totally believe in using it as medicine, but we can't even talk about it like that. I mean, we were like banned, barred, and going to be sued, fined, whatever, kicked off, censored, So, I mean, I believe in all of it. But what you can do more legally, which is not odd, it's the way our government works to make things look bad, is you can smoke the hell out of it, right? In big old cheesy bleezies and go to cookies with burner wrapping and stuff. I love burners wraps, that wrap about Elon. You go buy all these fancy seeds and all cool merch and shit and be still on 420, but you can't talk about it. It's medicine, and they want it that way. And that's cool for right now because, hey, we like having access. So as long as the laws pass and allow people to get access to things, I'll be happy. And, I just want people to learn endocannabinoid balance, man. It's my message. It's like, I don't even care what you do to achieve it because I'll tell you, you can do meditation, yoga, exercise. You can eat right with omegas. You can take vitamin B. You can take vitamin omega 369. You can take folic acid. You can take a lot of different supplements, get a lot of exercise, and have a healthy endocannabinoid system. We see people walking around every single day that don't use cannabinoids at all, none, not even the stuff I've talked about today, and they've got a good ECS. Their endocannabinoid system and their ECS tone is good. And I can tell because they can't even smoke a joint. So if they can't even smoke a joint, that means they're populated so much with the endocannabinoid that looks like THC. They don't need THC. Okay, so I mean, it's possible to not need certain stuff, but most of the population just doesn't fit that script. I'd say like 95% in America, maybe 97. Anyway, so hey, I just hope people, take the time to learn a little bit more, and when they're out shopping around, consider everything. Consider CBD. I don't have CBD stuff. I don't know if I ever will, but consider CBGA, CBG. Consider the THC, of course. Most people, if you walk into a dispensary, that's what you're looking for. And it's weird how the government's divided it.
Mm.
If you walk into a dispensary, you will not find this because they can't put it in there. Now, through a loophole, by calling it smokable, the CBGA 420, if we completely package it to fit the regulations, will go into California dispensaries. And then we'll be able to introduce CBGA at a mass level to a lot of people that are just getting high. You know what I mean? Because a lot of dispensary sales are too recreational and people with more money. And a lot of people do go to the dispensary to get something for medicinal, but most medicinal people find other ways. They start growing, they find their connections and do their thing. But anyway.
Do you think, Mike, do you think that maybe sometimes, I'm curious about this, people that have a relationship with different plants, or, you explained about the way in which you found that sweet spot where it was CBGA before it became THC. Do you think a lot of the healing can come from growing or beginning to really understand what's happening in the plant? Like, it seems like we can learn a lot from the process the plant is doing. You know what I mean? Like, you learn a lot about yourself that way.
We're already there. I'll tell you, there's
Yeah.
already CBGA cultivars. There have been for 5-7 years. There's CBGA cultivars don't even convert to CBG. There's CBC cultivars now being birthed and getting ready to go out there to where we're going to see CBC plants. And I don't know what
That's crazy.
consumers are going to do then, because now you're going to have CBGA plants, like I'm showing you CBGA crumble. You're going to have CBG plants, which are, don't have the A, so they don't do all the stuff this does. You know what I mean? So it confuses consumers already.
Right.
And it's one reason why I brought forward CBGA Crumble as a brand on cbgacrumble.com as a website. So this makes it really easy to understand, and then make everything on the website easy to understand. And then we have worked on for years Genevieve's Dream, because Genevieve, the girl I came to the house to see 7 years ago, started calling me daddy almost 7 years ago. So, I'm now her conservator. She's almost 20 years old. And we created this brand to fund her life and her dream. It's the Carousel Challenge, and it's on the Crumble website now on the menu, where people can go look at it. It just goes right to that page, and it shows all about her love for carousels, her desire for this carousel village. She wants her own big carousel because hers left. She considered a local ride that was just massive and old and original hers. And she did for so long, and everybody said, your carousel, taken to you too. So now we have to bring her to a ride and wave bye-bye, blow kisses. And we've been doing that for 6 years now, since 2017. It's pretty heartbreaking. And I'm done. I tried to get industry farmers and this and that to create the dream farms and blow it up. I tried to get all these joint venture things, but it's hard to do that. It's hard to bring this new concept because people are like, should I do it? I mean, nobody even knows what this stuff is. So I got a partner that'll do it. And we decided, hey, let's launch CBGA Crumble, teach people what CBGA is. Take all that educating doctors all over the world crap and turn it into language everybody can understand. And I'm still working on that, believe me. And then put Genevieve's Dream, a CBGA tincture, on that website, and that's in production right now. And it's literally going to be almost like CBD was introduced. Charlotte came and Charlotte's gone. CW Sciences still has Charlotte's Web, I believe. Rest in peace. She came and changed the world. And brought forward a new cannabinoid that it wasn't really new, but new to the world.
Right.
Hey, here's something that does something that you're not used to, and it's not getting you high while it's doing it. And now here's CBGA stepping up right now, being that next thing. It's not just CBG that people got sort of thought was CBGA. They're like, oh, CBGA is mother major. And people actually learn that. And then they thought CBG was it. And it isn't. Because people sort of looked at THC, where THCA doesn't get you high, but THC does, and it's really effective. So they thought, okay, the A's got to come off the CBGA for it to be good. And no, it's the other way around with that cannabinoid. And that's why I'm excited to see Genevieve's Dream launched out there, because it's her brand. The trademark is in her uncle's name, who is my partner in a nanotech entity, and he holds the trademark. He's a brother.
Yeah.
We went to Punahou. Dad came from
Oh,
Punahou, and from the islands. So I partnered up with the brother from the islands, and we've got this entity here in the Bay Area, and it holds the trademark for Genevieve's Dream to be transferred to Genevieve as it's registered. And the brand itself, already in our agreement, is Genevieve's brand. I'm her trust, her conservator, so of course I oversee everything. But this thing is being created with a concept and
right.
desire to create a fund, this dream fund, that not only gives her a carousel, but gets rid of like long waits for dentists, long waits for doctors, state funded therapies just don't show up anymore, things like that really impede the life of somebody with a developmental delay like her. As a young adult, we want to give her the most autonomy as possible, and we believe that without any judgment and critique of any other brand out there named after a child or whoever, this is an adult, and you're. It doesn't matter if she lives under our roof and we feed her. None of that matters. What matters is she gets compensated, and we make this fund that buys her this big ass carousel and more. We start looking at the whole thing like, hey, let's create a world, a life. It's like, well, maybe I'll match the fund. And then I was like, well, this product is all about that whole life. So let's just go that way, with at least our end of the stick. We have a revenue partner that for production and all that kind of stuff, and you need that. There's no possible way you can do something like this on your own, especially if you have a brand that gets massive. You need business people that know what they're doing, and so I'm excited to be able to bring the world that in a tincture, because it's so much different. When you got something in the dropper bottle, you've got like the capability of taking something, a golden oil, and just
Right.
and now you got something that is delivered a lot differently, doesn't look like hash. You know what I mean? For the adult crowd, that's great, but for kids, older people, a lot of them want some drops, some capsules, or something like that.
Is it dose dependent? Like when I see it in a dropper bottle, is it like 1 milliliter is equivalent to like a half a gram? Or, I mean, is there certain dosages for certain things, or is it because everybody's system is different, the medicine will be a different dosage for each person?
Well, I mean, whatever you're purchasing has so many milligrams per ml.
Right.
But there is no universal charge. I mean,
Right.
I can't go into medical claims or
Right.
treat what or how.
Good point.
But what I can say is that as a researcher, I have never been comfortable with the Western medicine overlap of dosing charts. It's like, hey, you know what? We had major issues with people taking stuff 3 times a day. They only needed PRN. We had major issues with giving people a 10 milligram tablet with no option to break it into 10 parts. I mean, on and on and on. to where people didn't get to take a
Right.
little piece of it. And I'll tell you, it's one of the things I love about Crumble, and people and adults love it about Crumble too, is they can look at it and go, oh, and you get this gut feeling after you use it for a while. I think I
Right.
need,
Kind of eyeball it.
and so dose response is different in each person, how they respond to the dose. This cannabinoid I've used a lot of today.
Yeah.
And you can tell because it looks like I had like 8 shots of espresso. But it's a very, very energizing cannabinoid, and it does an amazing job for our endocannabinoid system. The whole system is amazing. The whole plant
Yeah.
is amazing. Every last bit of it. You know, there's so in this industry that today I want to end my week right now because it's about happening, here on the West Coast. Just the thought that this is a good thing, Sure, there's bad people, negatives, and this and that, but this is a really good thing. We're seeing plants accepted finally.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it on the federal level yet, but we will.
Yeah.
And for me, anybody watching this can go to cannabislovestory.com. Another easy website. All of mine are really easy.
Nice.
So cannabislovestory.com tells the story of my family and why I'm sitting in this chair in this location. I wouldn't be here otherwise. I'm in Santa Barbara. I never had even visited much before. So definitely wasn't a planned location to live.
Yeah.
But it's where my family was born, from the cannabis plant, from compassion, from love, from giving, from care, from the desire to help people and see things change. So with that, I just want to end this and saying thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to talking with you again sometime, and in all of this, we didn't even talk about the fact I'm fighting cancer for the 4th time and beating it, but that's okay. There's always another podcast, but I think that people should keep their options open and consider the plant, consider every aspect, even juicing it, grow some in your garden, try to be self-sufficient.
Yeah. And check out, I don't know if you've said maybe, I don't know if your website's easy enough for people to remember. Maybe you could throw it to them again.
CBG, the CBGAcrumble.com. Yeah, it's sort of like I don't know if you can read that. I tried hard. CBGA Crumble. I think this says CBGA. Crumble.com. And I'm telling you, it's pretty easy one to get to.
Yeah. I got it linked down below too. Mike, this has been amazing, man. I love every part of it, man. I think you have a very incredible way of getting points across, and it runs the scope of, the kind of the trickster deity a little bit, little smack talking a little bit, and a little bit of throwing it in people's faces, and it compiled with some compassion, man. I love the way you communicate. I love what you're doing. I love what you have done, man. I'm looking forward to talking more and getting my hands on some of the crumble myself. So thank you for the message today, man. So anything else you want to hit on before we leave?
Hey, be kind to one another, everybody, please.
Nice.
That's the number one thing I ask of anybody and everybody if they ask me that question, because we truly don't know. And just like the cheesy meme says, we don't know what people are going through. And we could look at somebody who looks strong, and they're not. And this week I got a pretty intensive reminder of that through the loss of a good friend's son, and it was a depression move that nobody expected. So, it's young too, 20s, baby.
Man.
So, so it's just love one another.
Yep.
That's where.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Go to the show notes, check it out. play this back, have a good laugh, get some insight, get some understanding, and Genevieve's dream. Let's make it possible out there. And check out the website. Mike, hang on one second. I'm going to talk to you for a moment after this. But to everybody else out there, aloha.
Well,